My name is Veronica Hernandez. I'm going to be speaking to you about the professional school counselor dispositions. This was a great learning experience for me as an educator. I've been in the education system for 7 years, and I've finally gotten the courage to continue my education to be a counselor. And so, after looking at these dispositions, it was a great reflective piece for me. There were a lot of dispositions that I felt I already possessed, but there were also many that I want to work on. As a continuous learner, I'm always looking for growth. And I know that there are things that I will work on and continue to develop. And it's a great practice for us to always be looking at ourselves to see ways of improvement. Mind. First and foremost, I think that a counselor needs to be respectful and fair. I think it's important that all kids feel valued and that they are given the same and equal opportunity as everybody else. I also think it's important that counselors are always welcoming and encouraging to different diversities of cultures. I think our schools are melting pots of a variety of backgrounds and circumstances, and I think it's important for kids to feel welcome and safe when they come into our campuses. I think it's important that we build meaningful relationships with our colleagues, our staff members, our administration, and our students and our parents so that they all know that you are there to help. If we are committed to helping and understanding, then we are more effective in building those relationships, and our kids are willing to be more open to share their feelings and their emotions and the things that they're going through. It's important that we carry ourselves with professionalism, that we are always on time and we work diligently and effectively, that we are trusted and depended on by others, and that we deliver. Because if we do not deliver, then we lose that credibility. Educators, we should always be willing to learn, whether it's from other colleagues, whether it's from another, staff development. And as counselors, we need to always be reflective. What practices are working for us, which practices are not. Overlooking data, overlooking, our student population, our staff. As we reflect on those, then we can develop programs and situations that allow for growth in those areas. So it's a constant learning process. I mean, I don't think we ever stop learning, and counselors should be advocates. I think that most importantly, we have a very important role to play. We have a voice, and I think that when people come to us with their troubles at hand, or they come and speak to us about things that they are dealing with, we must take that leadership role. We should promote a positive learning community, always constantly pushing forward kindness and treating each other with respect, so that everybody in the school system feels safe and they feel welcome. If there are certain things that may not be, working accordingly, then we must be open-minded to changing those things and speaking and asking those meaningful questions that maybe some people are afraid to ask. I've always been very accepting with differences and ethnicities and cultures. I love learning about other people's backgrounds and circumstances because I know that we were all raised the same, and I think that's important for our kids. I think that we need to be very compassionate and have empathy towards the differences that our scholars bring, as well as our staff. I have always been a learner, a continuous learner. I'm very good at asking questions when I don't understand, and that's something that I always bring forth in my students. A lot of the standards that I abide by and a lot of the ways that I think have come from experience, and I think that is our best teacher. We can learn a lot in education, but I think once we are in the field, or once we are in those classrooms, then we really see the reality of things. There's a lot of good stuff happening in our education system, but I also think that there are a lot of inequalities. And I think as a counselor, we really need to understand those inequalities so that we can, try our best to level out the playing field for everybody. One of the things that I realized that I want to work at as a future counselor, and one of the dispositions that kind of stood out to me the most, was advocacy. I feel that being an advocate means having a voice and speaking out for what you feel is right. A lot of times, those are kind of like the difficult conversations to have with others. Sometimes you have to agree to disagree, but it's important to not stay quiet. I think that our kids and our parents and our teachers need a voice. A lot of times, these conversations are a little bit risky to take, but it's important that we do have them. Um, if we feel that something isn't being done right or is being done unfairly, or that people aren't benefiting from it, then it's important that we learn how to communicate. Attacked, and a lot of times feedback can either be constructive or we can take it offensively. So I really learned from my first year teaching, and 6 years after that, that the feedback that I get from whether it's my administration or from anybody that's observing my classroom, should always be taken as a learning experience, especially nowadays with our data driven schools. Is that in itself is the data. I used to think of data as just numbers, until I really understood how much data can give you feedback, chance to reflect on myself as a counselor. I'll be able to develop new teaching practices, new approaches, new attitudes and behaviors, and overlook the dispositions to see what I need to work on as an educator. And then in return, I can deliver more meaningful or reteaching, or having different, small group, whole group practices within our counseling program. So I think that we should always be constantly, open minded, and not be too hard on ourselves when we are reflecting. Be willing to learn and seek answers. And I think that if we continuously have that new learner mentality, then everybody can benefit from it. We can always be willing to grow.